Today's edition of Panthers News Today, the Carolina Panthers take a blow at the cornerback position from one of their key starters. David Tepper finally gets some clarity on his bankruptcy declaration for the Rock Hill training facility site. Sam Darnold has been named the starting quarterback. And of course, we got to talk about the NFC South playoff picture. Let's go ahead and get into it. What up, dude? What's going on, Panthers Nation? It's Aaron Duncan here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk, bringing you recap and analysis. And I have another Panthers News Today video. So make sure you are subscribed, man, because I'm doing these every week. Film breakdown is coming out tomorrow, which is Tuesday. Obviously, we got to talk about the game following the next week, live streams and stuff like that. So make sure you are subscribed with the bell icon. That way you don't miss anything. So we're going to run through these topics pretty quick, but we have a lot of things to talk about. So make sure you get in the comments and chop it up with me. Let's talk about it. I want to get your thoughts about everything that's going on. And the first thing we're going to talk about is cornerback CJ Henderson. Now, CJ Henderson got hurt early in the Panthers game versus the Steelers on Sunday. And let's just say that his presence was missed thoroughly. Cornerback Keith Taylor, the backup, came in. He ended up giving up 6 catches for 103 yards. That led to a big day for the Steelers offense. They kept moving the chains, and their offense just kept staying on the field, and his defense continued to take gash after gash, whether it was a running game or the passing game. But it was clearly a big blow to lose CJ Henderson. Now, CJ Henderson has had his ups and downs, but he has been playing well the past few weeks under the tutelage of the new coach, Stee Wilks. So his presence was felt guarding Deontay Johnson and Pickens yesterday during the game, and these guys gave Keith Taylor a handful. Now, with the ankle, we haven't really got a ton of clarity on how long CJ will be out. We'll probably find out more on Wednesday when the first injury report comes out. But with it being a shortened week, with Saturday being that game, we got to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. However, the replacements is going to be by committee. It's going to be some Keith Taylor, Tay Hayes, and T.J. Carey. You may not be excited about this for a very dynamic Lions passing attack that has a lot of speed on the outside. So this will be something to pay attention to, because that will be a key matchup on the outside for a Lions offense who's been slinging the ball all over the yard. But CJ Henderson's presence was definitely missed yesterday, and I think a lot of fans will be shocked to hear at this point in the year that we'll be saying that we really missed and needed CJ Henderson in the game. Nevertheless, hopefully we'll get a good report on him. Maybe he can still play. However, Steve Wilks is a big proponent of if you don't practice, you do not play. So you guys let me know down below in the comments how you feel about CJ Henderson being out. If you are out on Keith Taylor, or do you think he just had a bad game? He admitted himself that it was his worst game of his life. So hopefully better days are ahead, because we've seen him play better. Hopefully he does do better, because this is a key matchup for the Panthers coming up. So let me know how you feel about Keith Taylor right now. The next bit of news that came out is Steve Wilks reassured that Sam Darnold will be the starter for the Detroit Lions. Now, after the game, in the post-game press conference, he was non-committal on who was going to be the starter. He wanted to watch the tape. Some fans do not like hearing that, because famous words from Matt Rule and maybe even Ron Rivera about watching the tape. But watching the tape is what matters, because you can't see all 22 players when you're sitting on the sideline at eye level. You can feel it, and a lot of stuff happens. But getting to sit down and review the tape and run it back like I do personally, like you guys see on my channel, it's a big difference than the TV broadcast, what we see, and even being on the sideline like Steve Wilks. But Sam Darnold went 14 for 23 for 225 yards and 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Now, by Sam Darnold standards, this was a very solid game. By normal quarterback standards, you probably want a little bit more, because even though the passing game was the one thing that was working, they clearly decided to make Sam Darnold beat us, because they just ganged up on the run. The Panthers had a season-low 21 yards rushing. The reason why Sam Darnold was able to take advantage, because they were so committal on that. Now, we did move the ball, but at the same time, you can obviously feel that this offensive play calling is a little bit limited, because they don't trust Sam. That's why you see screens on third down, or a lot of times on third and long, you see running plays, or you see quarterback draws. It's not just horrible play calling by Ben McAdoo. There's a lack of trust there, because the more that you throw the ball with Sam Darnold, the higher the chance it is for him to throw an interception. Now, yesterday probably should have been a drop back game, but at the same time, you don't want to get into a throwing game with Sam, get out of rhythm. Then you get more 3 and outs, especially with the defense that couldn't get off the field anyway. You don't want to keep putting them back on the field. If you limit the opportunities for Sam to make a mistake, the worst case scenario, it'll at least be close at the end, and then you could probably open up the playbook a little bit more down the stretch. I'm just telling you how offensive play callers and philosophies are thinking. You can get mad at me, or you can get mad at McAdoo if you want, but when you have a guy like Sam Darnold, who's, for these first 3 games, he's had clean games, no turnovers. But this is the first time him as a Panther has had consecutive games without an interception. That's crazy. The fact that we're all waiting for that gray cloud or that pin to finally drop on Sam Darnold for him to revert back to the mean of a guy that turns the ball over a lot is going to happen. And the Panthers coaches are trying their darnest to keep it from happening. That's why we run the ball so much. That's why we ball control. That's why we refuse to drop back on third and long and force Sam to make anything crazy to happen. So that's just kind of the handicaps of having a quarterback that's suspect. But at some point, Sam Darnold's going to have to make some plays. And I told you guys in our film breakdowns, some of you guys complaining and saying, hey, we're undefeated. Don't worry about Sam. And I told you there's meat left on the bones, kind of like him underthrowing Terrace Marshall Jr. twice. Yes, one got completed anyway, but it could have been a touchdown. We'll see it on film when I break it down. And then the second one ended up being a pass interference, but we ended up only getting 3 points on that drive for a field goal when it should have been a touchdown if he put it over and let TMJ go run underneath it. So those type of plays are the difference between winning and losing. And I'm just telling you, there's a lack of trust just looking at the film that these coaches have for Sam Darnold. Regardless, he's going to be our guy now, probably going to be our guy going forward, barring injury. So we have to make do with what it is. Hopefully, there'll be a bounce back game and we can get the running game going. That way, we can protect Sam a little bit more. And that way, we have a little bit more balance and it doesn't put as much pressure on Sam. But you guys let me know how comfortable you feel with Sam Darnold and how did you feel about his game that he played yesterday? Did you feel like it was pretty much a great game by him? Do you think that it was clean, but it's still something missing from Sam? Are you ready to commit to Sam for next year? Some people are ready to do that. Let me know how you feel about Sam down below in the comments. And next bit of news is real quick just because Steve Wilks talked about it today. And with the collective bargaining agreement, things are a little bit weird. Yes, they added an extra game to the schedule, so now it's 17 games. But the bargaining for the Players Association is they wanted less padded practices because padded practices put an extra toll on your body. So they didn't want to double whammy with having an extra game and then extra padded practices. So they limited those. The Panthers only have one padded practice left, and they skipped one last week after the Seattle game because it was an intense game and traveling. But clearly, it made the difference in a game against a physical opponent like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Being able to go past just put your mentality in a different place. And Steve Wilks has been a guy that's been using these padded practices at least once per week since he's been the coach, just because it's been a mentality shift. And it's paid dividends. You can clearly see the difference of how physical the Panthers are when they practice versus this past week. It could just be an anomaly and a coincidence. Probably. But as a former football player, I can let you know that being able to set the tone early in the week with the padded practices make a hell of a difference. The Steelers, they didn't do anything crazy. They just beat the Panthers at their own game. They ran the ball. They limited the exposure of their quarterback. They moved the chains. They milked the clock. They stopped the run on defense. They really just played Panthers football and beat them at Panthers football. They were the more physical team. They hit us in the mouth, and they got a lead earlier and didn't look back. That's just kind of the way it is. And being able to be physical, especially this time of year, really makes a difference. Now, the rest of the teams on the schedule may not be as physical as the Panthers or the Steelers, who are their opponent. So we shall see. But using this one padded practice now is going to set the tone because at this rate, the Panthers don't have any room for error. So any kind of saving that extra padded practice for later probably means nothing. You need to use it now. So I like the fact of using that padded practice right now. The next topic real quick is David Tepper finally getting a reading on his bankruptcy declaration for the Rock Hill practice facility project for the Panthers. Now, of course, we heard about it in the news. We've covered it on this channel multiple times. There was a lot of back and forth from the city, the county, different contractors, everybody claiming what they wanted, some money. There was a lot of hands in the pockets, and David Tepper was not trying to play media games. So he decided to declare bankruptcy. That way, he got some clarity. Bankruptcy sounds bad, but for the rich, what they do is they go to court and get clarity to get settlements on how much they owe. If they're in all these kind of debts, instead of having to try to pull all these receipts and stuff, they put files and packages together. They give it to a third party. The third party figures out, okay, hey, this person is owed this amount. This person is owed this amount. This person is owed this amount. And once you pay that, you're all settled up. Instead of David Tepper having to deal with 18 different parties asking for money out of the pot from a big project that had hundreds of millions of dollars spent, it makes sense that it would be a money grab from a lot of different parties. And I'm not even a big David Tepper truther or defender or whatever, but I can understand how a lot of these small government and kind of corrupt government officials could probably try to put their hands in a bunch of different pots with a lot of the politics that has to go in it. So David Tepper finally got some clarity. This bankruptcy, maybe it'll finally close the door on the Rock Hill chapter. We will be obviously at Wofford for the next few years. I don't know. The next future going forward, it'll probably be it. Who knows when David Tepper will be willing to go back to the table to make a deal with anybody in the Carolinas. So we shall see. But David Tepper finally settled things up in Rock Hill. And last but not least, we got to talk about the playoffs. Yes, playoffs. Even though Steve Wilks said he didn't want anybody in the building talking about playoffs, we got to talk about it because the Panthers still control their own destiny. As bad and grim as it feels after losing to the Steelers, the Bucs lost to the Bengals. The Bengals had an epic comeback in the second half, and pretty much things are the same. The Panthers still control their destiny. Both teams lost. It just shortened the room for error for the Panthers. Now, the Panthers obviously are going to have to always beat the Bucs and always beat the Saints, but a lot of people thought that with the Lions being probably a better team on paper than the Steelers, they needed to beat the Steelers. So that's why a lot of people's hopes are down. But at the same time, the Lions, they struggle on the road. We'll talk about it a little bit more in a week, but they're a whole different team on the road than they're at home. They had a knock 'em out slobber game with the Jets, and they only scored one offensive touchdown. As good as their offense has been, they've only scored one offensive touchdown, and that was in the last 2 minutes of the game. So they can be had. They're definitely not as physical as the Steelers. We can see what happens outdoors in a little bit of the cold. It's going to be cold this weekend, guys. If you haven't checked your forecast, we'll see what these guys can do. But the Panthers have to take it 1 week at a time, and everything's still in front of them. I know hopes and morale are low for a lot of you guys, but everything is still right in front of them. Playoffs are still a realistic possibility. A winning record isn't right now, obviously, because we have 9 wins. So that's a whole nother issue. But playoffs are still on the horizon and still in, I guess, the 8 ball possibly for us to get an answer on. So we will figure out what's going to happen. It's going to be an exciting 3 weeks. Buckle up, guys. Get your head out of the gutter. Pick your chin up. Get your head up. We're still on this playoff run until we mathematically eliminate it. Crazier things have happened in the NFL. We just saw Matt Ryan blow a huge lead again from 33-0. Never been done. Crazy things happen. We saw the Raiders, a walk-off touchdown from a fumble interception return. Crazy things happen in this NFL, man. You never know. It's a week-to-week league. So keep your head up, guys. Let me know if you're still hopeful for the playoffs. How are you feeling about the team overall with their chances? With that said, they still control their own destiny. Nothing pretty much has changed. We're in the same spot that we started yesterday before we lost that game. So we could have made up some ground if we won, but wipe your hands with it. We're still back to where we go. Everything's still in front of us. Let me know how you feel about the playoffs, man, because I'm hyped up for it. But make sure you are subscribed. Regardless of what happens, I'm going to be here making this content. So make sure you are subscribed. Hit the bell icon. And don't forget to like the video. Without further ado, I'm Aaron Duncan signing off. You guys know what I do. I'll see you next time. Peace.